As mentioned in an email, I think you received today. Did you receive an email from me today about, anyways, yeah. I was going to talk about the shadow of the people pleaser sort of personality. And so, like, as a way into this, like, the setup early is, as we've been talking about, is that we discover that, oh, Brittany's here too. We discover early on that we can't be ourselves and be loved, cared for, um, and belong. So we have to adapt to one form of mistreatment or another. It could be, that mistreatment could be, direct, could be some form of violence, could be emotional withholding, but we learn somehow that we can't be our true selves. And so, in response to that, there are a lot of feelings, obviously, um, from a very young age when we start picking up on this. And when you do enough journeys with people, you realize that that these feelings reside in the unconscious, and they often are so deeply buried because they weren't safe to feel. But they start emerging in the context of deeper work. And the feelings range from, well, as it relates to people pleasing, there's always a component of shame, the discovery that who I am is obviously shameful, because for whatever reason, it's not enough. I'm not enough to sort of garner the love that I came for. And so we start adapting, but what do you do with these feelings that we're having? Shame, and they're big primal feelings too. It's not like they're small. And the shame is probably the deepest one. It's like I shouldn't even be here. It's like there's something deeply wrong, deeply flawed. But there are other feelings like rage, like it's a kind of homicidal almost rage. You want to remove the person or the persons who are causing you the shame. So it's and if the homicidal rage, like you actually want to get rid of the person who is humiliating you or who is hurting you. And if those feelings can't be expressed, then it starts to becoming suicidal, in the sense, not necessarily literally physically suicidal, but I have to remove myself from the scene. I have to find ways to disappear deeper and deeper into myself. Uh, there are feelings of hatred. We actually hate those who are treating us like this. So these are not nice, small, pleasant little feelings. But we also realize we also don't know what to do with them because it's not safe to actually directly express them. Because part of the bind is that if we express our true feelings, we're being ourselves, and we've already learned that I can't be myself and survive here. So begins the process of adapting and the curation of what you could call the false self, I've called the performative self, the adaptive self, the trying self, the the or just shorthand for all of that is the ego, and it's the curation of a self, of an image of yourself that is dedicated to just getting through. Um, the problem is, of course, that those feelings don't disappear. And so when we're talking about the shadow, we're talking usually about, there's a number of ways to talk about this, a number of different frameworks. But what I'll just talk about as it relates to people pleasing is that are these unacceptable feelings that we carry inside of us, but we have to hide from ourselves and we have to make sure they are never expressed for fear of uh, being further hurt in some way, for fear of being abandoned, rejected, uh, etc., or actually physically mistreated in some kind of way. So when the people pleaser ego is solidly in place, the defenses are very strong to guard against the eruption of these feelings, uh, which, as I say, are primal. They're very deep. So, what do you do with them? Then, what happens is that they leak out, and so you get various expressions, and those varied expressions are as unique as each one of us. So we each have our own shadow, and it behooves us to uh, understand it, surface our particular shadow, and take responsibility for it. In my case, on the one hand, I always had this nice guy persona. Um, but just under the surface of that, there was a lot of rage. And so at the same time as I had this people pleaser thing going on, I was also like on a hair trigger for somebody, including my intimate partners, to give me the opportunity to direct my rage at them. So there's a big fuck you that's not far from the surface, and that I had to really take responsibility for and sign off from, like the realization that acting out on that is a non-starter. So I had to do something else with it, and which raises the question of what do you do with the shadow once you're aware of it? And I think that there's so much energy tied up in it that by coming in, like Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, he's talked about the shadow archetype, and he said what you want to do is you just don't identify with it, but come into relationship with it. And I would say come into a compassionate relationship with our shadow, and therefore all of the energy, for example, that's in the rage, which is in the fuck you, becomes available for life once I bring it to consciousness, take responsibility for it. So and there are other expressions of the shadow. You could look for example, one expression of the shadow for the people pleasers: I will punish you for not letting me be me. So I'll find ways to get back at you, but they won't be direct. Uh, it could be emotional withdrawal, silence, withholding of my true self. I won't show you who I really am, which is a kind of expression. It's a kind of fuck you. It's a kind of, I can't tell you to fuck off directly, but I can refuse to give you access to the true me. Um, there, of course, is all the different forms of passive aggression. Because I can't be directly aggressive, it will leak out passively. So I'll make a promise, but I'll break it. I'll be chronically late. I'll find ways to disappoint you, but I will always do it nicely, and I'll always express great remorse for having done this to you. But the the critical thing here is to take responsibility for it, because part of the thing about, I'll disappoint you, but then I'll apologize, and it's like, that's not good enough. It's like, no, I did that. Like, I'm responsible for saying I'd do something that I didn't actually want to do, and then not showing up or being 10 minutes late all the time. Like, it's an act of aggression. So we have to take ownership of it. Other forms that come to my mind is like, because inside I feel inferior to everybody else because of how I've been treated, and because I've internalized the belief that it's my fault, there's something wrong with me, so that there is a interior sense of inferiority. But I will compensate for that by being secretly feeling like I'm in a superior position. There will be a kind of unconscious arrogance, and it'll express itself in terms of judging others. So it's a way to compensate for inferiority. Very often, the people pleasing personality or ego has this unspoken commitment to perfection. If I'm perfect, then maybe you will love me. If I'm perfect, maybe you will start treating me well. If I'm perfect, if I know exactly the right thing to say, the right thing to do, how to take care of you, then maybe I'll get the love that I need. So we have this unspoken commitment to, kind of a secret commitment to perfection. But then what do you do with your own flaws and failures? And we end up projecting them onto other people and quietly judge their foibles. It's not, this is kind of connected to the former one. But I don't know what it feels like to be compassionate with my own imperfection, because my own imperfection resulted in banishment, in shame, in humiliation, in being mistreated. So I haven't learned what it feels like to be compassionate with myself. So when I see it out there, when I see other people's flaws, I can't abide perfection out there either. So, I mean, that's just like off the top of my head how the shadow might show up um, for the people pleaser personality. And it's 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 tricky to it's tricky to catch this, because we're identified with the image of being nice. It's like, so I wouldn't do that to anyone. I wouldn't sort of be passively aggressive with someone. I'm not showing up late on purpose. It's like, I'm really sorry for that. But we do it over and over and over again. And at some point, it again behooves us to stop and ask the question, like, what am I doing? What is this about? What do I do with my anger at not being able to be myself, with having to twist myself into a pretzel and conform to what other people's expectations are of me? You don't think there's a lot of rage there? There's volcanic rage and resentment, and often it expresses itself too because we've so imprisoned ourselves in this people pleasing persona that we resent people who are actually freer than us, who can move their bodies freely, who can just blurt out whatever they feel like saying, who make mistakes and laugh at it. And it's like we don't know what to do with these kinds of people who seem free because we're so tied up ourselves. And so we secretly resent. But again, this is the thing, right? The shadow, it's all got to be secret because like we're so identified with the image of being good, of being nice, of being kind, of being accommodating, of being self-sacrificial, of being that we can't bear to even have the thought that we're enraged, that we have feelings of hatred. That, I mean, I was dealing this afternoon or with someone this afternoon who was like really badly mistreated by his father. Uh, but he was in such deep denial of it because to see it clearly, so he confused himself. He, by through denial, it wasn't that bad. But then when he, really got into it, it was like, yeah, it was pretty bad. My father acted hatefully toward me. And so, but it took a long time for him to get to the point where he could utter the words, I hate that bastard. I fucking hate that bastard. It's like, and it was and so it was kind of a murderous rage, but, it's like, and then the part of the personality that it curated, the ego is like, well, what do I can't feel that towards, I'm supposed to like my father, I'm supposed to, but there it is, you know, and you don't think that gets expressed in some kind of way towards his father? It does. It just doesn't get expressed directly. But he knows how to get his father's get at him, you know, and he's used it over the years. So like my encouragement for you is to try to identify your own unique form of your shadow, come into relationship with it. Don't be judgmental of it. Really, really bring compassion to yourself and um, around it and free up that energy so that you can use it for life. But as the as the basic foundation, you've got to get to the feelings of shame, of rage, of hatred. Allow these unacceptable emotions to actually surface and realize that you feel them for good reason. It's a natural response to the conditions that were there.